Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Ariel Property Advisors, Customers Bank, Capital One Bank, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Castamatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merengoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends. I don't want to scare people, but 1 out of 40 Ashkenazi Jews carry a mutation of something called the BRCA gene. People have the opportunity today to be tested for the BRCA gene, but they're not taking advantage of it because they don't understand. And there's a need for an education to explain what's going on. So today, with the help of a great Dr. Ken Offit and his team, I'm bringing together individuals who are going to talk about the testing and different approaches and explain to the community what's happening with genetic testing. I'd like each one to introduce themselves. Rabbi Lisa.
So I'm Lisa Gelber. I'm the rabbi of Congregation Habonim here on the Upper West Side.
I'm Ken Offit, and I'm chief of the Clinical Genetics Service at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and I'm also one of the leaders of this study we'll talk about today called the BEFORE study.
And you're also the individual who found the mutation in 1996, correct?
Yep, I discovered the most common mutation of the BRCA genes that occurs in individuals of Eastern European or Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, and made that discovery in 1996.
I'm Robin Cami Baum, and I am a genetic counselor by training, and I am a member of this research study, the BEFORE study, and my role in the study is as an outreach director to engage with a wide range of people in the community to make sure that they are aware of the study and can take advantage of all of the benefits.
And last but not least?
I'm Kelly Morgan. I'm a genetic counselor at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and I'm one of the coordinators of the BEFORE study as well.
So as I started the show, let's explain what this 1 out of 40 is and what the BRCA gene mutation is.
Well, back in the late 90s, we discovered these genes that cause risk for cancer to be elevated in people. These genes cause a risk in men. We're starting first with men, prostate cancer, and for women, ovarian and breast cancer. And we're starting with the men because the men are probably the least aware that the breast cancer genes cause prostate cancer.
But couldn't they also cause breast cancer in the male?
And they do, absolutely. They rarely cause breast cancer in men, but when they do, it can be devastating, so we do point that out. So those are the genes, and they are seen across all world populations. They're seen in Europe, they're seen in Africa, they're seen in America. In some populations, we have an increased number of mutations compared to other populations. And it just so happens that for historical reasons that we may or may not want to get into, these mutations are 10 times more prevalent in individuals of Eastern European Ashkenazi ancestry. And so this project, what we've embarked on, is a test of screening for mutations. We'd like to do this ultimately in the whole world, but we thought we would start with a group where there was a particularly increased risk, and that's this Ashkenazi Jewish population at risk for these breast, ovarian, prostate, and some other cancers where we know if we find the mutations, we can intervene with screening and prevention to find the cancers, hopefully at a curable stage early, or prevent them entirely.
So let's talk about the program, the specific new program that was created in April. Tell me about the program.
So it's called the BFOR, Before Study, and we're specifically offering this testing to anyone of Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. By that we mean one grandparent of Ashkenazi ancestry. You have to be 25 or older, and here you have to live in the New York or New Jersey area. It's also going on in Philadelphia, Boston, and LA. This is a way where we're making the testing more convenient, so an individual actually just goes online to b4study.com or bforstudy.com and goes through first an educational tutorial that contains all of the same information that a genetic counseling visit would.
So it's a pre-genetic counseling visit online.
It ends up actually, what's great is replacing the genetic counseling visit. So as opposed to the traditional model where someone would come in, see myself, a genetic counselor, and we would order the testing, you do the entire genetic counseling session virtually, online, from the convenience of your home. And at the end of this registration process, you have a test slip to go to your local Quest for the blood draw.
Quest Diagnostics, who's doing the testing, right?
And on the back end, as opposed to getting the results at home or alone, you are getting it in a medical setting. So as a part of the study, you choose if you want your own doctor, your primary care doctor, to give you the test results, or the Before Study team, a genetic counselor, a physician.
What's involved in this test? I didn't realize when you go online, it's partially genetic discussion over there, counseling. I thought the counseling came only in case you had the mutation.
So certainly that's where the detailed counseling comes into play, you know, either if a test result is positive or even if there's a strong family history and a negative test result. But it's still important that prior to doing the test, you do get sort of the critical pieces of information you would need to make sure.
So what are the critical information, Robin, that's given during this portion?
Well, it's a series of educational tutorials. It's a wide range of media. We've tried to develop and utilize best practices and also state-of-the-art. So individuals who go online will interact with the online tutorial. They have an opportunity to meet people like Dr. Offit and his colleagues who will impart the information. They have graphic videos that are not graphic per se, but videos that will be able to really provide the information so people can make an informed decision whether this test is appropriate for them and is something that they feel is relevant to their health care. And so it's really the opportunity for people to feel empowered and really be proactive. And that's so much what medicine has become, is that people take ownership for their health, people get engaged in their decision making, and we're really trying to meet people where they live in current day, where they are able to be a partner as part of this process.
How do you get the message out to them that they should go and be tested?
I used my personal story. So I'm BRCA2 positive and decided that I was going to have 2 prophylactic surgeries. And I informed the congregation that I was BRCA2 positive and that I was going to have surgery to attend to my health so that I would be here for a long time. And use that information to sort of educate my community.
Now, you have 286, I think, family members in the congregation. How many of the members of the congregation took advantage, if they were Ashkenazi Jews, to be tested in this initial study of the 1,000 that we had available in the New York community?
So congregants regularly are in touch with me to either tell me they were tested before my sharing this, and that they understood what I was going through, or they appreciated my sharing the information with them because they didn't know
but my
before.
comment is this: when something is close at home,
Yes.
it resounds. Okay, I mean, it's nice that you have PR agencies. It's nice that you have that. But what you told me before, that the opportunity of the 1,000 tests, only 540 people have taken advantage of it, is a shock. Okay, this is an opportunity to save your life. Because when you wake up and you find out that you have this condition, and it also says you have the possibility of even getting pancreatic cancer, which there's not too long of a period of time that you survive. So I just can't see.
So I can't tell you the number, but I preached about it. I talked about it on the High Holy Days when we had the largest number of people in one room. I walk around with the before brochures, handing them out to people.
But
in Starbucks.
how about...
And people are telling me every week, somebody else says, I went either through this study or some other way I was tested, or they called their friend or they called their sister and said, here's this information, you really need to do something about it.
So if I may, from our experience in outreach, what we have found is when we have a champion who is able to really speak from the heart and is a trusted individual in the community, there is a greater initiation of the test. But I think Ken and others can really tell you that it has been a challenge, to your point, to really engage the broader community in the absence of this very powerful, inspirational voice.
Well, we don't need to say, some of the viewers of this show know that Professor Stoller is, in addition to a real estate maven, also is extraordinarily knowledgeable about the topic that he's addressing today. And it's been an early adopter of genetics and screening. And one of the reasons that we're here, other than respect for you for your leadership, is because of this point. There are people watching this show right now, and they're listening, and they're thinking, maybe I should do this test. But they won't decide right away. They may mull it over for a week or two. We had one congregation on the Upper East Side where the rabbi said on Yom Kippur, you must do this test to be in the book of life. You would think that every member of that congregation, it's a little bit more of a strong arm tactic than what you're describing, you'd think that the next day, right, we would have had hundreds. We saw a woman, Kelly Wright, just this was almost a year ago. She'd been thinking about it for a year. So it takes time for individuals to take power and control of their lives in a preventative way. Genetic testing, as you know, is a very sensitive test. It's not just a man getting tested for his prostate cancer, but when he's getting that blood test, he's thinking of his little girls and how he may have to tell them that they're at risk for the cancer that their grandmother had. There's an enormous emotional burden involved and a lot of courage to get genetic testing. So what we're showing today is all of us here, a rabbi, the discoverer of the gene, Robin, a reformed genetic counselor now engaged in the real world, genetic counselor. We're here and we agree we need to do more, and this is how we want to do it.
What's interesting, I don't know if you're aware, this individual who I told you about who lived in Atlanta went out and got the congregations in Atlanta to agree the rabbis would not marry people unless they would test it for genetic testing. This was a person who had a child. You know, it's normally always happens to someone who has to champion a cause, but the cause was championed. So let's talk about, we find out that we have the mutation. What do we do next? What's the steps? What's the procedures, both for a male and for a female?
So we'll go through some of the basics of that. Any of us can do that. You're not a physician, but go ahead.
I can talk about my personal experience. I found out that I was BRCA2 positive I spent about 10 seconds thinking about it and then said to myself, I'm going out and I'm having these 2 surgeries. I was going to have my ovaries removed and I was going to have bilateral mastectomy. And that actually saved me. Because when I went to see a breast surgeon and said, this is what I want to do, she said to me, okay, I'll do it for you, but I want you to have this MRI just to be sure. Maybe you'll change your mind. And I looked at her and said, I know myself. I'm not going to change my mind, but thank you for checking. And thank God she did. I found out that I had I had breast cancer. I had no idea. I had just had a mammogram 2 months before. No sign of anything. So for me, that knowledge was power. I mean, as soon as I knew myself, my own constitution.
See, but you understood. Let's take the other person who finds out one day and wakes up and finds out that they have the gene. How do you tell them, okay, you as the physician, you as the genetic counselor, how do you tell them and how do they react? I mean, how has that happened so far?
Well, we can go through that, but you also can wake up one morning with a man and have some pain in your groin, or you can be a woman and have some pain in your belly and have an advanced ovarian or an advanced prostate cancer. So we always want to weigh these two scenarios. My wife went to a medical school here in New York, and her medical school classmate woke up one morning and had a pain in her abdomen and went into an emergency room and had unresectable advanced ovarian cancer and had the mutation that I discovered in 1996, and yet had never been tested for it because she was too busy, she said. Really? She must have thought about it. She didn't want to go to another doctor as a doctor, maybe, but it's a sad scenario. So yes, there is a burden to have the mutation and then to enter into the discussion with your family, but it's a positive discussion because if it's with your son, you don't have to worry about getting prostate cancer with this mutation until you're 60. It's not early onset for prostate cancer.
Which is interesting because we didn't know that. Okay.
It's very interesting. We would have thought it would have been earlier onset like it is for the breast cancers, right? Mm-hmm. But the prostate cancers are much more aggressive, which we didn't know. They're all Gleason 7 or greater. If people know what that means, those are aggressive prostate cancers. So this is a powerful way to screen for prostate cancer among men, and this is not widely known.
But in the same way that Rabbi Lisa said she had the surgeries, okay? What happens to the male if he finds out that he has the mutation for prostate cancer? So is it recommended to have the prostate removed?
So what we do for men is we believe, despite what you may have heard, that PSAs are effective for prostate screening. We have an excellent website at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center that gives algorithms and nomograms to follow for PSA screening with all kinds of neat things, like if your PSA is less than 1.0 by the time you're 60, you probably don't need to have another PSA, for example. But if your PSA is increased, it leads to a biopsy of the prostate. And in a BRCA mutation carrier, this is very specific. You asked a specific question. The specific answer is we do a biopsy for a male with a BRCA2 mutation at a PSA value of 3. And some of you in the listening may have PSAs of 3 and may be in their 60s and a bit following it, just following it. That's okay. Don't be worried. But if you have a BRCA2 mutation, you'll go in next week and have a 10-quadrant biopsy, and the chances are when we find the prostate cancers, we can do a curative intervention. So this is a story that we need to get out. Michael Milken has put a lot of focus into prostate cancer screening. We need to get this into the consciousness of folks thinking about prostate cancer screening. It is the one marker for high-risk prostate cancer, high Gleason score prostate cancer that we know about today.
Now, what about the article I read about the young lady who, I think it was her birthday present, that she took the test and she had it with this company 23andMe, and the way she woke up one day and got this text, contact us you have the BRCA mutation. I mean, the interpersonal relationship. People believe when they hear 23andMe, as you were saying before, this is a present for Thanksgiving or Christmas, okay? And I went to the website today of Color saying, in honor of Veterans Day, we're giving you $50 off on a test. This is your life, as opposed to finding out that you came from African American family from Mozambique or something like that. I mean, that's not what we're looking at.
Well, what they're doing is they're just trying to get your DNA, and they'll do anything they can as a marketing device to get your. Remember, was it Dr. Strangelove? Your precious bodily fluids, right? This is Dr. Strangelove. They want your material so that they have all of your genetic information, and they do that through recreational genomics. But then the recreation stops when they commoditize that information, and then they'll start selling back to you medical information. This is the business plan. Now, there are two objections to this. One, maybe Robin can comment on, which is how that takes the individual and turns the individual into a sort of a commodity that's passively getting information versus the model that she just described, our model of being proactive. And then the other issue, which I can talk about a little bit because we're very much aware of this, is the confidentiality issue, that the rules that govern my interaction with you as a physician, the federal privacy HIPAA rules, do not apply to these companies. They do not apply. So they're not governed by and as a result, you can see
these companies
they'll sell the information.
Sell the information to a variety of people. I hate to say, to life insurance agents, to other types of people, or to nursing homes, or anything, okay? To commoditize a product.
We don't want to make any charges that are not substantiated. There's no evidence that they're doing what you've said, but they do have the possibility to market this information.
I mean, when I went to Google yesterday and put in genetic testing, I saw paid advertising for many companies besides this 23andMe and Color and others. So there are a number of entities going on the bandwagon to commercialize the product over here. Let's talk about some people who took the test and found out that they have the mutations.
Well, tell a story, Robin, maybe of the woman in Los Angeles who did the test with our Cedars-Sinai colleague.
Well, this was a woman who was 70 years old, participated in the study, decided to have a prophylactic oophorectomy, which is removal of the ovaries, to absolutely reduce her risk for ovarian cancer. And she, in fact, was diagnosed with a stage 1 ovarian cancer, which in the world of cancer is pretty much unheard of, that you would be able to diagnose an ovarian cancer at such an early stage. At the very beginning of our efforts back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when we were doing a lot of this activity under research testing, we were one of the first teams to have identified an early stage ovarian cancer, but to do it in the context of broad testing is really something that, in fact, we potentially have saved this woman's lives. And that's really what this study is designed on, and our motivation is not commercial. And our motivation
to save lives.
Is to save lives.
Now, what is Sharsheret?
Sharsheret.
What is that?
So Sharsheret is a wonderful organization started by a former clerk of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who herself, unfortunately, was a victim of breast cancer at an early age. And in her memory, this group is carrying on to spread awareness of the special situation of young Jewish women affected by breast cancer and at risk for breast cancer. So they are not themselves a medical organization. I've been on their advisory board for a number of years, but they are facilitative of information. And Sharsheret has been a partner with us and with other groups seeking to increase awareness and access of young Jewish women. I'm also talking now about young Jewish men and old Jewish men. Okay, we think everybody needs access to this particular genetic testing information.
So let's tell people how they can find out and get the test today.
Let's say the most important item with a minute left is that there are people watching this. I've watched this for real estate purposes. We want to let everybody be aware that you can go to b4study.com today and for the next many months to be tested yourself. And as individuals have done in the community, to save one life is the ultimate reward. If you are in such a situation that you can reach out to us to help us save the lives of others, that is an even greater privilege. This is a challenge that we are ready to take on. There is a tradition of giving. I've seen on the show these extraordinary interviews you've done with great individuals that have accomplished much in real estate, and you've said have given much back. And I think this is an opportunity for all of us to make this type of return.
And to make sure that this happens, we're going to do another show in a couple of months to continue and to talk about the results. And I'd like to thank Rabbi Lisa, Dr. Offit, Robin, and last but not least,
Kelly Morgan.
And I'll see you next week. And remember, get screened. It's never too late to get screened. And in the specific words, one who saves the life of one is like saving the world. Thank you.
Amen.